Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to Spooktacular. It is me, your host, Marco the Vampire, and with me is the ever amazing, ever wonderful designer of Spooktacular himself, the one, the only.
Brad Talton. Alright. We're going full cringe here for the launch of Spooktacular.
It's Spooktacular,
It is,
Brad.
it is, it is. And then
You have to.
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We are
It's a it's so fun, dude. I am
cool.
so pumped and ready. Chat, hello, welcome.
Hello.
Can you all see us? Please tell us in the chat if you see us. We are spooking, we're tacular, and
And that our audio is okay, that you can hear me and Marco in kind of a good even balance. I've done my best with what I could in preview, but always good to get some feedback if we're on the same volume level. So
right.
But yeah, well, cool. Today is the day, and we're about 1 hour out from the launch of our next big project, Spooktacular. This is our pregame show, as it were.
Pre-game show?
Well,
How
it
about
is.
pre-project
It's a
game?
show, and the game is about to launch, so it's a pregame show.
Yeah, I don't think pre-game is a very kid-friendly term.
That's what they call it in football, Marco. I don't like
Okay,
what like.
fine.
I mean, okay. I thought that was like an
Brad,
ESPN thing. Are you telling me there's some
You're
what?
yes, there's another meaning to it. It's
Okay, all
um
right.
it says you're very particularly quiet, Brad.
Oh, okay. Let me
Up your
turn.
volume a little bit.
Okay, cool. All right. Well,
All right.
anyway, all right. See, I guess I'm too old to know all of the scuffed things that are going on in you kids' minds these days.
In your kids' minds, hello? You're not that much older than me, Grandpa.
Yeah, I know. But every time we talk, I feel a little bit older than you than I was the last time we talked. Even though
But
reality, we're moving along at the same rate, it just feels like the gap is getting bigger and bigger. So,
I see, I see. I mean, you haven't gotten your gap for the Rizzlers in, okay? So you
oh,
gotta
oh my gosh. All right.
such chemistry. Yeah, I mean, look, not again. It's really cool. Brad and I have a bunch of chemistry. We've been friends for gosh, how long now? Like 10 years?
Yeah, I
Six
think it's
years?
about 10. It's been about 10 years that you started doing the battle guides, and that's how we met up. So
Yeah.
little
Let's
little things that you do for fun can really cascade into a whole career.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working for you ever since. Let's give people a small introduction. People might not know who we are or,
That's right. We're
what we
more
do
popular
here.
than ever before, so we shouldn't assume everybody knows us.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. So, Brad, tell me, who are you?
Yeah.
Brad
So
Dalton Jr.?
yeah, my name is Brad Talton. The creator of various board games, the owner and founder of Level 99 Games. I made a couple games you might have heard of. Most recently, Dead by Daylight, the board game. After that, Guilty Gear Strive, the board game. And also some classics like BattleCon, Pixel Tactics, Millennium Blades, and Exceed. So, to name a few. Um, let's see. And then, why don't you tell us about yourself a little bit, Marco?
Hi, I'm Marco DeSantos, also known as Mechanic Critic, and I am here telling you about me. I'm the developer for Level 99 Games. Basically, it's my job to make Brad feel upset sometimes because he comes up with a really cool idea for a board game, and I'm like, that doesn't work. The mechanics don't work. It's imbalanced. You have to change things. He's like, Marco, you're no fun.
No, no.
Uh,
Then I say, okay, Marco, you make it work. And so this is really the suffering because I'll come up with this cool idea and then you'll have to make it work. And
yeah,
you might be
that
like,
is the
yeah, it's
thing.
unbalanced and it's terrible and all these things, and I'm like, well, cool, fix it. Come back
Yeah,
to me
I
when you
guess
got a solution.
that's the real hallmark of a good developer is when you are not there to stop the designer from doing creative fun things. It's finding ways to warp the game to make that vision work, right?
Yeah.
And
And speaking of
and
warped
it's
visions, here we are with Spooktacular.
yeah. Oh
But
my
no,
gosh,
I
spectacular.
couldn't let that go. But you should give them the rest of your CV. Tell us about the games that you've developed.
I mean, I've developed for, I guess, BattleCon, for Exceed. I've developed for Bullet, which is our shoot 'em up, like, shmup style puzzle game, which is cool. Of course, I did the development for Spooktacular. That's the important part here. So more than anybody in the team, I know how the monsters work. So if you want to learn about monster mechanics, how we implemented them, that's me. And if you want to learn about monster lore, that's Brad. Brad made a lot of these monsters, and they're so freaking
Yeah, well,
cool.
it's been a lot of fun, and it was a team effort. We really all pitched in our ideas, um, and yeah, so excited.
Right.
There's a
Well,
lot
Brad,
of cool stuff, yeah, coming up.
before we get into anything spectacular today, I just wanted to ask you, how are you, man?
I'm
How you feeling?
doing
It's
good.
an hour before the
I'm
Kickstarter, so how you
excited. I'm
feeling?
excited, but like every time we do a product launch, I'm always like nervous. I always hesitate when I'm about to click the button, even after, gosh, it's been 13, 14 years now, since BattleCon, I think. And I still, I'm still like, oh, is everybody gonna like it? So, even seasoned creators get, have such challenges. So,
Right.
yeah. But
Yeah.
how about you, Marco? You about to put your work on display too? A
Oh
lot of
man,
people are gonna play that TTS mod.
yeah, I've been working on getting everything ready. I worked on directing the Kickstarter trailer that's going to be released by the end of this stream, so you'll see it. You see the fruits of my hard work. And the TTS mod, I've been working on getting that fixed. There's a lot of cards, there's a lot of components, and hopefully, you guys will appreciate the hard work that we've gone into making this. Kudos to Davey and Josh for getting the Kickstarter ready, and also getting the Kickstarter material, the game materials done, so I could even make the TTS mod to begin with. But yeah, look, Brad, the awesome part is that once we release this thing, people will see all of that and they get to actually play the game. Isn't that
Yeah,
great?
no, I'm really excited. And it's a fun game. It's a great game. I've been like at Gen Con, I was playing it with we had ticketed events to come and play it and showing off on the table. But like every day, like I'd sit down and play the game, and I'd be like, I'm excited to play this game again. Like even though it's work, even though it's like the 15th time, I'm excited to sit down and play this game. And then I would bring the game back and play it in the hotel at like before bed. So like it's that it's got that vibe. It's very, I don't want to diminish it, but I would say like snackable. Like you can just play it. You can just pull this game out and play it, and it's about 45 minutes long. And it's got a
I
lot of
don't think
depth
that's
and excitement for that for that length.
yeah, I don't think that's diminishing the game in any way, shape, or form, right? Like we designed it and developed it to be
We
snackable,
did, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, this is working as intended, right? So, yeah, but
Right.
it is a very fast paced game compared to the weight of the box and the amount of like diversity that you have in there.
Right. And I do love it. So Brad, before we even like continue on this, maybe people don't know, maybe they're here. What is Spooktacular anyway? Like how did we get
Yeah.
here? How
So
did we get to Spooktacular?
yeah, gosh, what could I say about Spooktacular? So I mean, it started with this idea that we had on one of our team retreats, which was getting a bunch of monsters together in a big haunted house and just having them sort of battle it out for the title of greatest monster of all time. And we started with some very classic monsters. Like we had a slasher, we had a mad scientist, we had like the actual devil, we had evil trees, and we had what other monsters? Werewolves.
There was a black cat. There
Well, that came
was
a little
an
bit later.
infectious
I'm thinking even
the
like
virus.
V1.
So
And there was
there
a
was a
poltergeist. Yeah.
Proto Charles, right? Which is like the doll, the haunted doll,
Yeah,
I
there was a
think.
killer doll. There were like 6 or 7 monsters in the early versions of the game. And in this game, we actually prototyped this game with a box of Isle of Cats. Um, where and it was a tile building game where you'd like lay tiles down and then guests would pop up in the house and then you'd try to like scare the guests into corners so that you could devour them. That was kind of the
Right.
original premise. And each monster had their own little board that worked in their own little way. Like some people were on a rondelle system, some people had quests, some people had like a board that you'd move around like a little maze. Some people had their own little sub board over to the side where they'd pull guests into their their own section of the mansion that they owned. All this
Right.
stuff, and we worked on that for a bit, and we were really excited about it. And then got the contract for Dead by Daylight, and so put everything else on the shelf for 2 years, and just
Yeah, that's how it
made Dead
works.
by Daylight. Um, and then after finishing that project, we were like, well, you know, this is still cool, and we're all big horror movie fans over here at
Yeah.
Level 99. So we pulled it back down again and started working on it.
And so we got here, Brad.
Yeah.
I like to describe Spooktacular as what if Cabin in the Woods, the movie, but the game.
Yes. Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods, the game.
That's a good way to put it, right? Like all the monsters show up, and and are battling with one another. We ended up losing the building portion, and going for a static board because the monster boards. Remember, I said every monster board had their own mechanics.
Right.
That compared to building the mansion and having your own mechanics, there was too much complexity in the game, and these things were fighting with each other. So in the end, we said, like, making the monsters so individually cool, that's what is carrying the game. That's what we're going to focus on for the
Right.
release. And so we made it all about the monsters, and never looked back. I think it's absolutely the right decision. Someday the tile laying game in my back pocket. I'll release it at some point.
As a different game, maybe about cats this time.
Maybe I'm thinking it's going to be like kind of like a
It's Animal Crossing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it's going to be Animal Town, but um, we'll get to that at some point in the
right.
future.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this game is a real cool perfect storm, right? Of all of our kind of like passions. Because what I really love about horror as a genre is that it's not just one thing, right? Like it's not just all of your exorcists and the nuns and whatever's. Horror, and much like many things, is a spectrum, right? There's
Mhm.
comedic horror, there's artistic horror, there's horror drama, horror romance, right? Like gosh, there's a name of this movie. Is it Pushing Daisies? No, it's not Pushing Daisies. It's uh, uh what's it called? Warm Bodies.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the like the horror romance.
Right, the horror romantic comedy
Yeah,
about like a zombie apocalypse, but you realize that the zombies might still be human or
yeah.
whatever, and
But
that love is the cure to the
and
virus.
I mean, like,
Like,
the classic horror rom com is Teen Wolf, right? Which I think we played off of pretty
right.
heavily in
In
Spooktacular
Wolfpack.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
but
and
yeah,
I think that the point is that every member of the team got to like basically engage with the horror in the amount that they wanted to engage with, right? Like
mhm,
Davey got in there with his like off kilter B movie concepts, like the killer cars of the world, right? You and
mhm,
Davey
yeah,
are really into that. I'm really into mythos, folklore, monsters, like as like a the way that you categorize them, like in grim fairy tales and whatever,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
So and I'm Filipino, so
yeah.
I
You
use
got your
Filipino.
manananggal,
Yeah, it's pronounced manananggal.
manananggal. Can I get it?
Manananggal.
It's
Uh,
manananggal.
it's manananggal.
Gal, manananggal.
It's
Okay, yeah,
gal.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
yeah.
H in the gal. It's gal.
Leviosa. Yeah.
Leviosa. But yeah, like being able to share that part of my culture with people is really cool too.
Mm,
So I like that there's a lot of creativity in the horror space, and not every horror board game has to look the same. And I
yeah.
think that's what makes Spooktacular so special, because even if you think you've seen it before, the idea of horror movie monsters coming to life has not been done.
Yeah.
And I think it resonates with people, right? It resonated with us. And it at first didn't start off that way, actually, right, Brad? You
Yeah, we
talk a bit
started
about this in
off
your designer
with
diary.
yeah, and on BGG you can like read more about it, but basically we started off with real monsters, and but it was the weird ones that people liked, right? Like people liked having a giant shark attack this mansion. People liked having a killer car drive through this mansion. And then we were like, well, how can we make all the monsters cool because we had some, some basic ones like our slasher and our vampire count and our mummy, and we're like, well, how can we make all these monsters interesting without making this game just silly? Um, and so going back to horror movies made it all kind of click because there's movies can be silly in premise but still take themselves seriously enough to not just be a joke the whole way through, right?
Right, like when you think about Sharknado, right? That's dumb as heck. But the people in the movie Sharknado are very much terrified of the Sharknado coming in and
Right, like
killing
this,
them.
yeah, the situation like becomes real, right?
Right.
And so yeah, the yeah, I think that was the movie that Josh really wanted was the Sharknado. Um,
you,
it
you
it
wanted to make
it
like a monster
eventually
based on...
it eventually became he wanted a like a force of nature monster like Twisters or eventually it became Great Angler. So
Right.
that was how
Sorry, it's
that would evolve.
Angler, no longer great. Just
Okay,
Angler.
sure, yeah,
This is the Angler.
the
There's only one
Angler.
of him.
Okay, but he's gigantic.
Right. That's fair.
Okay,
Um,
okay, well,
yeah, I mean, like, so yeah, chat's saying that, sometimes because horror is a spectrum, you don't think you're into it until you find a specific kind of horror that you're into, right? Like, you might not
yes.
be into slashers, but you might be into eldritch horror, right? Which is like
Hmm.
psychological in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, the Yeah, I mean, that's correct. Chat's saying that the wimpiest horror movie monster is still extremely scary if you imagine actually seeing it. It's true. Like,
Hmm.
if look, Chucky is funny because like having a baby doll try to kill you is hilarious and dumb. But if in real life a doll just started moving, I would cry, right?
Sure. I mean,
Like,
but Chucky, like the Child's Play knows it's a silly movie, right? Like, I don't. Do you
right.
know the origin of Chucky, where, like the like serial or criminals getting like he gets shot and he's dying in a department store and he uses like voodoo magic and gets struck by lightning to transfer his soul into the
Oh,
Chucky
into the...
doll and like the
Yes.
opening scene. And I always thought Child's Play was like really, I thought it was quite terrifying when I was young. And then I watched it as an adult and I'm like, oh, this is actually a comedy horror movie. I didn't even
Yep.
realize
That's
it, that that's what I was going
You were a
into.
kid.
Yeah,
You
as
were
a
a kid.
kid,
You
I just
didn't
thought it was
know.
like
Right.
scary. Um,
Right. It's like but if you wanted real like actual like, scary, right? I mean, it's not even Puppet Master is still kind of just funny, right?
mhm.
Um yeah, so even Puppet Master where they tried to be a bit serious with it is still pretty funny. Yes, chat Damfino, we are launching the game today. Actually, by the end of this stream, we will launch
In
the game.
about 45
Uh
minutes. So we're
yeah, in
gonna
about
we're
45
just gonna
minutes.
sit and yammer on for another 45 minutes, and then we're gonna push the button, and that'll
Right.
be the end of the stream. So,
You know what? Actually, now that we're getting into this, Brad, favorite horror movie. Let's talk about it.
oh
Look, this
gosh,
game's about horror movies. We need to talk about horror movies. Let's go.
yeah. I mean, favorite horror movies. I really like Us. Like if we're talking like straight up good horror movies, Us extremely good. One of my favorites. Also really liked The Witch with two W's. And I really like everything that the director puts out. Eggers like excellent. I'm really excited for Nosferatu. Um, Now,
Fair.
what about you,
You were talking to
Marco?
me.
Like
You were
main
talking to me
horror
about
movies?
how excited you were for Nosferatu. This is the
Hmm.
guy who did the same guy who did The Lighthouse, right?
Witch, Lighthouse, yeah, and oh gosh, I can't remember the is it the Viking? Like what's the oh
The
gosh,
Viking one. There's the
yeah,
Viking one.
I like forget the name. The Northman. The Northman is the name of the movie.
The
That's a really
Northman.
excellent movie. It's not a horror movie, but it's really excellent. Um,
All right.
like I like everything coming out of Eggers great. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah.
me horror movies. I mean, again, excuse to talk about Filipino culture. There's a horror anthology series in the Philippines
Mhm.
that I believe is around 19 to 20 movies long. It is the longest running horror anthology series in the Philippines called Shake, Rattle, and Roll. And it's basically like every movie is just 2 to 3 mini films, short films in one movie.
Okay, so
right? So
it's a vignette like VHS or that kind of thing.
right. But it's shown in theaters, and um, here's the thing, Brad, and this is
Mm-hmm.
so out of whack. In December in the Philippines, we don't get American movies.
Uh-huh.
So if you guys release a movie in around December, I don't know that that movie exists
This is just like a
because
law out there, right?
yes, mandated by law in December, you can only show Filipino movies in cinemas.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
this is called the Metro Manila Film Festival, right?
This is called trade
And
protectionism, but it is it's cool. I think it's
right,
probably the good kind because you get to
yeah,
you get to see movies that might otherwise be eclipsed, right?
that's fair. And so Shake, Rattle, and Roll actually basically gets made for every one of those.
Mm.
This is the thing, though. It's a horror-themed anthology film that they show during Christmas time
Uh-huh. So are there
every
often
year.
like Christmas themes?
No, this is the thing. None of the
Really?
themes are Christmassy.
Okay.
There hasn't been a single Shake, Rattle, and Roll where one of the vignettes is based in Christmas time.
I
All of them are like Christmas agnostic. The
why do
most
you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe like, they just weren't feeling it or something. But that's changed in 2022, I think, or 2023. Shake, Rattle, and Roll Extreme. One of the vignettes was actually during Christmas time. So for the
Okay.
first time ever, they did a Christmas one,
All
which is
right.
great. Um, yeah, I think the latest one, Shake, Rattle, and Roll Extreme. I don't think they've done one in 2024. Of course, because it's not December yet.
Mhm.
The 2023 one had one of the vignettes I really liked, which was basically a bunch of like Filipino social media influencers. At least like that's the story, right?
Mhm.
Social media influencers basically go to like a resort island, and basically a serial killer or some witch is there killing all of them because she hates social media,
I
and they get
see.
killed on stream or something.
I am, but
Uh,
believable.
completely
Believable.
believable. Chat's talking about their favorite best classic ghost story, The Innocents, made in 1961. Ooh, maybe
Hmm.
you'd like that, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I might have to like jot some of these down for later watching.
Right.
If we're talking like actual B movies, I do have some B movies that I really love. Um,
Sure.
my favorite, probably my favorite B movie, is Killer Sofa, and this is a movie where
You made me watch this. You
it's
made me
it's so
watch
good.
this.
It's a movie where the monster is a sofa. And actually, like I don't want to like spoil it or get too deep into it, but just the moment when the guys are like walking down the street and they like look up the apartment and like the sofa is like looking down at them out the window, and it's like like the two buttons on the sofa are the eyes, and it's got like kind of the folds of the sofa make this dark frown, like, "Whoa," and they like basically the sofa jump scares them from like the window across the street, and
Well, I
I was
don't
like,
know
this
why
is
it
exactly
doesn't.
what you're in for.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb
It's so
because
good.
I remember there is a scene where the sofa like goes to the second story of the house. Like
Yeah,
how?
yeah.
How does it do that?
I don't know.
Like you would think that the
The
movie called Killer Sofa would be like, oh, there's a sofa in a place and somebody sits in it and then they get killed by the sofa. That's not what happens. The sofa just autonomously moves
Yeah,
around
yeah, like
and
a
kills
sofa's
you.
literally the monster, right? And like there's this one part where the guy like the one of the guys like has a fight with the sofa and loses, and the sofa like just like physically gets up and like like kills him, and like he's, oh gosh, this is my favorite moment in the movie. I'll spoil this for you just because you ought to watch this, but like they're having this fight with the sofa, and he finally gets the sofa like doused in gasoline, and he like lights the match, and he's like, now it's over, and then the sofa goes like whew, and blows out the match, and like you didn't think that the sofa could do this, but of course it can, and it does, and then he like just destroys him,
I
and
I
like,
love how the sofa has fake lungs, right?
yeah,
It's just
right, like
why?
why? So
Oh,
anyway, Killer
absolute.
Sofa, great. The stuff was really fun. I enjoyed that one a lot. Um, uh,
Right.
I really like Repo Man. I don't know if like horror musicals count. I don't know if Repo Man is really a B movie because it's got enough production value that like it might be an A movie, and a lot of people think of it that way. So
That's fair.
I don't want to. I
Um,
like it's pretty good. It's like it's you can definitely jam to the soundtrack too. Like
I don't think production is what makes or breaks a B movie though, right? Like I understand that that's what it technically means,
mm,
but I think like that term has transformed to be like it's like when you say that the game is retro, right?
yeah,
Like a modern game can come out right now and people could describe it as retro and people be like, "Yeah, that's retro," right? Because I
yeah.
think B movie has turned into like a sort of cinematographic style language, right? And even if you have super high production values, like here's the point, right? Gosh, that Winnie the Pooh movie, Blood and Honey, right?
Yeah.
I think I think that had a pretty big budget, and it's still a B movie, right? Like
I
we
guess
agree that it's a B
so.
movie.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. So, um,
Yeah.
but like, okay,
Oh.
but Renfield is not a B movie. Like,
But
but it's
isn't it though?
definitely no, it's just camp horror, but it's not like, I mean, it's camp comedy horror, right? But it's not a B movie. That's like a AAA budget movie.
Yeah, I guess that's
So,
fair.
I don't I think the budget does have still at least something to do with it.
That's fair. I think maybe it's like if the budget is it's not budget, but like if it's kind of like bad, like some movies have a lot of
Hmm.
budget but still end up looking bad, right?
Yeah,
I think it has to like have that aura of badness to it.
I
Speaking of which,
I suppose
Filipino
so.
B horror movies. There's a movie. You Google this, Brad, for you. Don't show it on stream.
Okay.
Just search it for yourself in your own time and chat. Feel free. There's a movie called The Exorcist. Okay, Exor.
Exorcist like
It's
sister.
like sister.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, The
Weird.
Exorcist. Um, and it's a horror comedy B movie about gosh, basically there's two sisters and one of the sisters gets possessed by a demon and the other sister has to figure out how to deal with this.
I see.
So it's basically The Exorcist but like turned buddy cop comedy movie. It is terrible, like
Okay.
absolute
Hmm.
garbage. But we watch it
Wild.
to laugh at how bad it is,
Hmm.
right? That's the hallmark of your B movie. So
Yeah.
there you go. I think this is a really cool time to transition into some questions from the chat.
Yeah.
What inspired some of the monsters from the game? I think we can talk about this before we head over to our mid-show break. So, Brad, just pick one of your favorite monsters and talk about the origin of said monster.
Yeah, sure. So, from the very beginning of the game, like, we're not from the beginning, but at least from the middle of the game, I wanted to have a character that was like the TV horror host, and I either wanted to make a character that was like a coded Vincent Price or a coded Elvira. That was kind of the premise: is that this is a monster that is going to kind of be in the background, like narrating and introducing the other monsters. Maybe we'd
Right.
even use them in the rule book for examples, like to narrate the examples or something. Like they'd kind of be a character bound to the game. In the end, like the host of horror didn't get that role of being like the guy that has the rule book examples for you, but did make it into the final game and is one of the coolest monsters there. And the ability for this character is that they can point over to another monster and say, "Look over there," and that monster will spook for them, and and they'll get all the points. And that's
That's so good.
been kind of their effect since the very beginning. It's taken on a couple iterations, but generally has kept pretty true to the vision.
And development wise, we encountered an issue with the host where having more players made the host stronger and
Yeah,
having less players made the host weaker. So the host's power level would literally scale based on player count. Big no for development, in case you didn't know. So we introduced the animatronics to the hosts. Thing where basically the host would put in dummy monsters that
yeah,
weren't tied to any of the other players that he could also introduce, right?
yeah.
Which
So
is
you and this
really
is really
cool.
fun, yeah, because you get to like have all the figures, even the ones that you may not play with as often. They still get to show up on the board. So I thought
Right.
it was a really clever solution to the problem. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I really liked it. I really liked it. So Brad, why don't you ask me the question?
Yeah, sure. Marco, which monster do you like the best, and tell us what their power is?
I'm dressed a bit like her right now, so I'm talking. I'm going to talk about the remover because she's my girl.
Okay.
She's my
Yeah, this is
monster.
the
I
monster that
fought for her to
Marco
be
Marco created. So
right.
yeah, the
So
Manananggal.
close. That's pretty close.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah. So the remover is based on a Filipino mythological monster called the Manananggal. These monsters are basically like our versions of a vampire. They are usually scorned women who basically turn to witchcraft and gain like supernatural powers, such that every evening at night they split their body into two, torso and legs, and the torso grows wings and the manananggal flies and like finds prey, usually consuming unborn kids or people.
Yeah, yeah.
Things like this.
This
Very
is
scary
this is
monster.
traditional folklore monster, right?
Right.
Ours uses their powers for weight loss.
Yeah, yeah. So the remover, so manananggal literally translates to one who removes, because the Filipino word for remove is tanggal. So manananggal is one who removes. So the remover, Brad and I were going back and forth about the concepts, and I was like, oh, we could put her like, this could be the monster, and Brad's like, yeah, but that's just the manananggal, right? We need an extra spice. Why don't we make it about weight loss? And I'm like, okay, great. So fitness instructor meets crazy half vampire, and it makes sense, right? Because the remover can remove your love handles, but also your soul and also your life, right?
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah.
concept wise, this is a mix of like 80s workout culture, and the plot of the movie is that like there's this new weight loss program that's going around headed by this figurehead called Mama Nangal or Mama Nagal or whatever,
Yeah.
and people are noticing that people who take her weight loss program are indeed losing weight to the point where they start looking malnourished and then die. um,
So yeah.
so there you go.
And I'll tell you a
Mechanics
bit about
wise,
like the origin of this character.
right? I was
So,
about to
oh
talk
yeah, well,
about
talk
that.
about tell about the mechanic, and then I'll tell you where
Right.
like it originally started, and you can kind of see the progression to like the modern version.
Right. So the remover's main mechanic is her weight loss program. She basically has a predetermined set of effects that happen at specific times. And she can somewhat manipulate it, but basically it'll go along this track, and you basically get one run through the entire track. And when you get to the end, you get their big bonus for sticking with your weight loss program. And for the remover's case, it's basically like 1/5 the entire win condition of the game. So she basically
It's
gets one
pretty
fifth a win.
huge. Yeah.
It's huge, and it's free. She doesn't have to do anything. She just has to get to the end,
Well,
right?
you have to get to the end, and there's a lot of good effects on this track, so you really kind of want to stop on every space if you can.
But
But you're gonna
also, if you get to the end,
yeah, so you're gonna have to
if you get
give
to
up
the
some
end,
things, and picking what you're
right,
gonna give up is often the tough part.
right, and that's really the thing about the remover is that you basically have these cool bonus effects that happen at times that you don't usually get to dictate, and finding the best moment to proc them, or rather knowing what's about the proc and finding a way to make it good is what the remover is all about. Brad, but this was actually based on mechanically an old monster. Tell us
Yeah,
about that.
this was based on the first design for this monster was actually Yellow King, and the what's it the track
The weight
was
loss
what
program,
yeah
yeah.
what became the weight loss program was the play that was going on in the background. So in
Right.
the Lovecraft story, there's like this play, and that's where the King in Yellow is introduced. And so, anyway, so that would like kind of go on like in the background, and you'd have these beats where you'd have to do a certain action. But anyway, so then that kind of came into, but we felt like it's like Cthulhu's too obvious, right? Too obvious. You
It's
have to
too
subvert that
close.
in
Yeah.
some way. And then yeah. Anyway, I'm really like, happy with like what we got because it's like it's so campy. It's so like 70s, 80s. Like
Yeah.
it just feels great, and the poster is like so synthwave. I love it.
I
So
I love
it's great.
I love that they put the movie title in her split, right? Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
No.
And
Excellent,
I do
excellent.
want I do want to note that maybe something people didn't notice that every single one of the monsters is not just like a riff on some classic cinema.
Hmm.
It's also a riff on eras of cinema,
Yeah.
right? Like Shortland Charles is like silent era film, and of course Removers like 80s 70s like movies. So yeah, like if you watch and look at all the monsters, their themes and inspirations and the movies that they are supposedly about riff off things in those specific eras of film,
Hmm.
right?
Well,
From your Pulp Fiction for Kiltron, to your like Sydney for Deadline, right? It's really cool, I
uh,
think.
saying that, I think I'm gonna switch over to show the like the slideshow, which will show all of the
Please
different
do.
like all the different posters that are in play here. So like right up now we have Killer Car, which was the first one that was ever made for Spooktacular.
Ah,
Um,
yeah, and obviously we're a big fan of Christine over here.
yes, yeah. So I really liked how this one turned out. This one probably went through the most iterations though, because it was the very first one, and
Because
we
it was
wanted
the
to get the
first.
style right. This one and Hell
Yeah,
Chef, we did like quite a lot of the iterations of those two. But anyway,
yeah, makes sense. Brad,
yeah,
I think we deserve a break. So how about let's take a mid-show break and let's talk about let's just take a chill chat, take a chill. This mid-show break is brought to you by you, dear viewer. Thank you for watching the launch party for Spooktacular. I do hope that you all come and support the game once it's out. If you're watching this in the VOD, the Kickstarter's already up. Go back it right now. Thank you very
but if you're
much.
watching it
Back to
really,
the
really later in the VOD, it might already be out. So
oh,
go get a copy.
go get a copy.
It's on you to
But
figure out
before,
which of these eras you live in. Is
yeah,
the
and
past or the future an illusion when we have VOD? Who knows?
if you pick wrong, though, I will go to your house and put your head in a bear trap. Just
Marco's
saying.
top half will fly over to your house.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Do you know how to kill a manananggal, Brad?
I think you have to burn their bottom half, right?
You have
Or
to put salt on their bottom half.
salt, and then they can't reconnect.
Yes, and
Okay.
if manananggal cannot reconnect, they become vulnerable to sunlight. So
Oh,
you
okay.
basically prevent them from reconnecting, and then when the sun comes up, it kills them.
Gotcha.
Um, there you go. Okay, Brad, fans, people, chat. I have a fun game for you during our mid-show break. During our mid-show breaks on our live streams, we do like playing a little game. I like making a little game and forcing Brad to play them. Hey, Brad, let's play a game.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's do it.
All right. I call this the name or not the name. You know how horror movies are, Brad. All of them, or many of them, have the form of the blank,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's like the plus thing, right? Actually, that's a really fun trivia thing. Is that most of the monsters in Spooktacular used to all follow this name structure, right? They
Hmm.
used to be called the Deadline or the Mummy Gator or the Host of Horror. We
Yeah.
dropped that later on. But I will now read off some movie titles in the form of the blank. And
Okay.
you and chat have to figure out whether it's a real movie or
Re-
I just made it up.
okay. Okay.
All right?
All right.
It's not a threat or a promise, it's both, okay? Um, oh man, Fantastic Paul's watching this video in 2057, Brad.
Oh well.
Um,
Welcome. Welcome to the future.
welcome to the past, I
Apparently
guess.
Kiltron hasn't gotten us yet.
Yeah, that's great, right? Or maybe this is Kiltron and they're
Hmm.
baiting us
I see.
into it.
Well, we've got 30 years left. 30 good years left.
That's fair. Okay, let's start with number one, Brad.
Wait, is
The
Terminator is
Thing.
Terminator horror?
Yes?
Is it?
I mean,
I mean it's
Terminator, it's a dumb action movie, but it's still pretty horror, especially Terminator
Terminator
2,
2. Yeah, that's what I'm
where,
thinking. Like cuz 2000 is a classic, like feels like a classic movie monster, but it's an action movie.
right, 2000, I mean, look, Alien's also an action movie. Predator's also an action movie.
I feel like Alien's more of a horror movie, especially like Alien, definitely a horror movie. It's not
Okay,
fast paced
fine.
enough to be an action movie.
Okay, but Predator is an action movie, but I would also call it a horror movie, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess I can give you that one.
Okay, Brad, here's
All
the
right,
movie.
the movie.
Let's not get distracted.
All right,
The Thing, Brad, chat. The Thing.
The Thing. Well, we know The Thing. This is John Carpenter's The Thing, right? This is super famous. Like, you can't just
Oh,
drop like The
that,
Thing and expect us not to know what that is.
all right, that's easy. That's easy. Fine,
It's
fine,
easy.
fine, fine.
Easy.
How about this? The Misery.
The Misery. I think you made that
Oh.
up. I don't think that's a real thing.
Oh, well, chat. Do you think The Misery is real or not? Some people are saying yes. Some people are saying yes. Brad, unfortunately, you are right. I did make up The Misery.
Okay, good, good, good. Whew.
Right.
All right.
Okay. So important to note, Misery is a movie. The Misery is not.
I see.
I'm trying to catch y'all. Okay.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
trying to get y'all. Okay. Cool. How about this one? The Black Phone.
I think the movie is just called Black Phone. I don't think there's a the at the beginning.
Oh, chat. Do you think the Black Phone or Black Phone? Now you're seeing the real game, Brad.
Yeah. Okay. The real game is that you just add the to real movies and try and,
Are you
psych
sure?
us out.
Are you sure though? Are you sure?
Or am I the sure?
Ah, are you the sure? Okay, chat is correct. The Black Phone is the name of the movie. It's not Black Phone, Brad. It's
Oh, it is the Black Phone. Oh, I'm wrong. Oh no! Oh no!
Ah,
Oh
yes,
no! My cred is
yes.
on fire. Ah.
Ah,
Okay.
how about this one, Brad?
All right.
The Severed.
The Severed. That sounds like a real horror movie.
Oh, chat. How about you?
All right.
Come on, chat. Come on, come on, come on. The Severed. The Severed. I, you have to understand how much.
If it's not, it'll be in Spooktacular too, because like that's a great title.
Yeah.
Although
So
I would, if it's wrong, there must be like the Severing or something. Like, I feel like I've heard that before. Oh, okay.
I
What? Well, tell us.
right. Okay. The Severed is not a real movie. I made
Okay.
that up.
Okay.
Right. There's a movie called Sever.
Oh, okay. And
Um,
Seven.
yeah, and there's a movie called Severed, but there is no The Severed. So there you go.
This game. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this
Last
game,
one,
Marco.
Brad. Last one, Brad. All right.
Okay. All right. Let's try it.
The Deliverance.
The Deliverance.
Not Deliverance. The Deliverance.
You know what? My instinct is that that's not a movie, but I've been wrong more times than I've been right. So I'm gonna say yes, it is a movie because I don't actually think it is, and we're gonna hope that that my instinct is so bad that I can actively work against it, actively fail or
I see. I
actively
see.
deny
You're
my
it's
instinct.
it's it's like that thing where one of your friends has such bad luck that you ask them
That
to
you
bet
can,
for you, and you
yeah,
bet the opposite of
yeah.
what they're betting on.
Such bad luck, I can bet against myself now. That's what I mean to
Oh
say.
my god. Brad, your instincts are wrong, which means your instinct was correct because The Deliverance is a real movie.
Yes, yeah. Fool me. Can't fool me three times.
I can't fool you three times. It's Joshua. Hey, Joshua. Hey,
Greetings.
everybody. Joshua's a really cool content creator that we worked with for Spooktacular. Joshua's going to release a cool video after this stream is over, and you might see him on our Kickstarter trailer as well. So there's that. Joshua's from Horror Dora fame. I don't know if that's like the fame you want to be known for, but that's where I first found out about you, Joshua. So
There's
cool
an
stuff.
entire like Horror Dora fandom out there, right? Like
Yes, there's an
extended
entire.
universe with a wiki.
Is there a wiki? I've not been to the
I
Horror Dora wiki.
I
That's awesome.
I don't know. I don't know.
Uh, is it actually? Does the fandom call her Horror Dora, or does the fandom call her like Psychopath Dora or Serial Killer Dora? I forget. But I digress. Joshua, great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming in, and hope you have some fun. But that's our big show break. That was the name or not the name. Brad, did you enjoy the game?
I hate that I this. Okay, this was the B movie of mid show games, Marco. Like budget non-existent, but I still liked it.
Yes.
despite that it was cheesy. Um, so there you go.
Yeah. All right. Oh, it's Evil Dora. My bad. Evil
Evil
Dora.
Dora.
Thanks for the correction. Yeah, there you go. Evil Dora. Oh man, I love those videos, man. It's so fun.
Well,
And it's exactly the kind of horror that I'm into. And somebody in chat was mentioning "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared" as well. I'm also a fan of "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared." My partner got me into it, so that's really sorry. My fiance. I keep calling her my partner. Them my partner, but
yeah.
they're actually my fiance now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move on to our second segment where Brad, are you ready for the most terrifying segment of all?
Um, is this is the segment where we open ourselves to questions, right?
Yes. Because what
Okay.
is more terrifying than being vulnerable and asking people to ask you questions and
Yeah.
you must answer
Then
honestly,
then then
right?
answering questions on social media. Nothing. Nothing scarier.
Nothing.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Hey, Joshua, thank you so much. You're awesome, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, everyone in the chat, Brad and I are now open to questions. Feel free to ask us anything about Spooktacular, horror movies, and whatnot. If it's about gameplay, if it's about anything, just ask us and we will answer. We will be chilling while waiting for your
Well,
questions. And
while we're doing, I'll ask you a question, Marco. Which monster was the most challenging in development? Who caused you the most
oh,
problems?
this is so okay. Who do you think it is, Brad?
Um,
That's my
I am
first.
gonna I'm gonna say Outlander actually
Oh, interesting. Outlander.
because
Pretty close.
yeah,
Outlander's like top 5.
okay. Well, why don't you tell us which one it was?
Okay, Brad, you're not gonna believe this, or maybe you will. It's the Night Slayer.
The Night Slayer. Oh,
The
okay.
Night
Interesting.
Slayer
So,
ended up
bef-
being the biggest problematic character in the entire
yeah.
game,
Well, before you
which is weird.
explain why, I'll give a quick like. So, Night Slayer's ability is that he plays Spooktacular kind of like more in a deck builder fashion. He has a lot of cards, and he plays a lot of cards every turn, so he can cycle his deck really quickly. And then when he like collects a complete set of guests, they drop on the board and flash mob away from him. This character was originally concepted as Thriller, but we felt like
The
Thriller was
Moonwalker.
like too obvious, so we ended up making it more of a rock star, and that was inspired by the 1986 film Trick or Treat, not the one with the scary kids, but the one with the heavy
The
metal
Rockstar.
rocker that comes back from the dead when you play his record backwards. Yeah,
It's like Trick or Treat meets Beetlejuice a bit, right? Like
yeah.
that's what Night Slayer is kind of
Hmm.
like. Not too serious, not too scary, but
But
pretty metal.
yeah. So why was this the toughest monster?
So when that brevity is the result of wit, or what's that saying?
Brevity is the soul of
Brevity is
wit.
of the soul of wit.
Hmm.
So the problem with Night Slayer is that there's not a lot of knobs to Night Slayer, right? He
Hmm.
plays a lot of cards and he revives people and spooks them when he devours a full set. That's basically all he does.
Hmm.
And the problem was that it was way too strong. And you can't really nerf the ability without fundamentally redesigning what that ability is, right?
Hmm.
Because it's like, the entire theme of Night Slayer is that he kills people, revives them as zombies, then spooks them from him, right?
Hmm.
So I couldn't lessen the number of people he revived. He always has to revive 5 of them. And he can't not spook them. Spooking them is the point, right? So like there was all of these things that are part of the fundamental identity of what makes that monster cool and evocative that I could not change without getting rid of that. So I had to find nerfs in other areas. I had to make his deck velocity a bit worse. I had to do X, Y, Z, Q, U, R, a bunch of under the hood stuff that most average players will not even know is happening.
We
So for
tuned like
example,
chain lightning down from like 3 chains to 2, like little things like that, right?
right. No, but the big one is, for example, we added a card called Pose, right?
Hmm.
And it's just a card that, it says gain 1 point and then play another card. So it's literally just a bad card in his deck. Because he cycles through his deck so fast that we needed to add bad cards to the deck to make the cycling a little bit less good.
I see.
Because
I see.
otherwise, he would just get access to the basic cards, which are really, really
Mhm.
powerful. He would get access to the basic cards over and over again way too fast because he
Yeah.
plays too many cards. Because in Spooktacular, you draw back up to your hand size every
And
turn.
we
So the more
actually,
cards you play in your turn,
yeah,
the more cards you draw.
we actually have what lurks below here on the screen, which is also a kind of similar monster. It turns out playing cards is real good in
Really good.
Spooktacular. Yeah, and so this is a monster that like their original ability was after each player takes a turn, you take a turn, uh, and that got really
No.
crazy. In the final, they just play two cards per turn,
Yeah.
and that's almost unbalanced. Like we had to give them a like you had to give them a ton of nerfs to make play two cards a turn be okay.
They have a 10 card deck, 4 of the cards are bad.
Yeah.
That's how strong the cycling is because they just get to play so many cards every turn. So there you go. It's Night Slayer. Let's answer some questions from chat.
Okay.
Are there any scrapped monster ideas that might appear in the future? Asks Joshua.
Um, yeah, there's a couple. I'll tell you my favorite monster that didn't make it into the game was a
Right.
monster called Black Cat. And Black Cat's ability was that it scores a ton of points without even trying, and like you just cannot like Black Cat just cannot walk through this theater without creating a ton of mayhem and earning a ton of points. But Black Cat only wins if they have the lowest score at the end. So you're actually trying to
Right.
like avoid all of these points. You're trying to avoid killing anybody, you're trying to avoid spooking anybody. You just want to like, exist alone in your corner for as long as possible. And that it was a really cool idea. And it was fun to play. Like we really enjoyed playing Black Cat, but it was a bit too complex to make it work, and so in the
Right.
end, it didn't come with us when we left behind the buildable mansion in the early versions of
Right.
the game.
Oh, I miss Black Cat. For me, it's probably gonna be like we have their spiritual successor in the game, but I still really want the spirit board. So
Spirit board.
yeah. So basically, here's the gimmick of the spirit board, everyone, and this is like my favorite like part of it. The monster is the board game.
Well, they're the score track,
That's
right?
it.
They're specifically like they have their own score track, and it's when you score, they manage. Like there's a banker in Monopoly. These
Right.
guys manage the score track, except that their score track is this goofy shoots and ladders board where they get to do all kinds of shenanigans to you.
Right. Yeah, but I like the mechanics, and that mechanic basically inspired Beasts of Business to turn the score track into a shoots and ladders game. But I like the theme. I like the idea that the board game we are playing is haunted, right? Is the monster. The board game is the monster, right?
Yeah.
I love that theme so much, and like because I watched Jumanji as a kid, right? And Jumanji is Jumanji, right? And that's basically like a Jumanji monster is awesome as heck. So yeah, I want that to possibly appear in the future.
Yeah,
Um,
someday, someday.
right.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any others that I like. I really Parasite. There's a Parasite game that
Oh,
was like inspired by Alien, and this monster had little like Parasite tokens that you would actually stick on top of the guests. They had like little hats that they'd wear that were parasites, and when somebody devoured one of your infected guests, you got the points, and then the infection would like spread around the theater.
right.
So anyway, yeah. So that kind of became Screamin' Eagle,
Kinda, yeah.
like
Kinda.
who brings their own set of special guests just for them. So I think like
Right.
we to some extent like the parasite's still there, but it's much
It's
more.
not the
It's
same
yeah, the theme
theme,
is like
right?
totally different. Which I guess it's the same with
Right.
Spirit Board and Beast of Business. Like the theme just got totally changed, which
Right. And
happened to a
I
lot of
guess it.
monsters when we transitioned to
Yeah.
movies from straight monsters to movies.
Yeah. I think the movies really unlocked things for us, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's fine, and some of those monster ideas might come back, and then we'll see what we'll do with them. Brad, let's answer some more questions because we only have 10 minutes left before we need to launch this thing.
Oh yeah, gosh, I had forgotten all
Right.
about it. Launching the project.
Yeah. How about that? So there's a question: how is interaction between players?
Yeah.
Brad, how is interaction between players and
Yeah, I mean it's pretty chaotic. Like the what did I say? So um, I don't know if I want to go into like the whole thing, but um, you know, I've done a lot of like head-to-head games. One versus one, and players are really like tightly engaged with one another's mechanics, right? Like you really care about what your opponent's doing, and you have to deal with them. And I said, how can we make that ethos work in multiplayer?
right
And so you can read a bit about this in the first
in the
designer
blog?
diary that I wrote on
Yeah,
Board Game Geek. But basically, the you there's two parts of your turn. There's execution and planning, and the execution is at the front of your turn, and then planning is at the end. So what you sort of do on a typical turn is you play your cards, you run all of your monsters' abilities, and then you get to draw more cards and move and do like any setup portion that your abilities have. So like
right,
for remover, you're deciding how far along your weight loss plan you're going to move. For like deadline, you're putting down your next phone. For like for most monsters like Screaming Eagle, you're just moving into the room that you want to potentially target next turn. And
right,
so that's where you do your planning phase at the end of the turn, and then other players get a chance to interact with you on their turns, and their interactions are likely to spoil your interaction. So what
right.
you're kind of trying to do is figure out what the other players are intending to do on their turns, move in such a way that either they won't spoil you or that
You
you'll
spoil them.
well you won't be able to spoil it. Like if you were going to spoil them, you already did it during your execution phase, right at the start of the turn.
Fair.
So you're really trying to think, how can I play out my next turn in a way that won't get disrupted, or such that I can like control my disruption, to mitigate. Like I move to a room where I think you're going to kick me out into the room I actually want to be in, that kind of thing.
Right.
um
It's really interesting because there's like this play of like trying to guess it's kind of like, gosh, it's kind of like worker placement, right? Where it's like you kind of have to guess what other people want to go in, and you have to measure how much do I want to go to this place versus how much do I want to go to that place to avoid other people, or
yeah,
when I want to go to this place because I know somebody else wants it, and by me going there, I disrupt their plan
right.
somehow,
Like if you've moved
right?
in there first, then like another player likely, unless they'd already laid the groundwork, like you've staked your claim and they're not going to be able to disrupt you, or they're going to, or they've got some disruption already lined up. So what's
Right.
the interaction with players? It is more strategic than you'd think. I think is probably
Right.
the best way to say it. And it can be as like you can certainly sweat this game. You don't have to, and you don't need
Right.
to. I
The
think
monsters are very.
the
I
monsters
think.
tell you. Like if you're
Yeah.
playing
I think it's
Deadline or Rigu, you're gonna sweat. And if you're playing somebody who's like straightforward, like Charles or Night Slayer, like let's have some fun. It's gonna be a good time.
right. I think that's a very important thing to point out too. Is that monsters are very, very, very capable in this game. So even if somebody spoils your turn, 99% of the time you can still get a good turn afterwards. It just won't be completely insane. And that's kind of the thing about this game, and part of the development of it is that if a monster goes unchecked, they're not doing like score 5 to 6 points, right? Which is what the good turn would be like, or that you would expect in a game, the 50-point score maximum, right? Um, if a monster goes unchecked, they score 20 points.
Yeah, like
Like that's what
they
happens in
get
this game.
really out of control, and like you kind of have to watch your opponents and be, you know, um, but
And setting
that's
up your own stuff too,
yeah, you have to set up
right?
your own stuff while also disrupting and spoiling as best you can. I think that's the
Right.
neat way to
That's
put
the
it. But
that's the thing.
like and interaction between monsters, it kind of depends. Like there's some monsters like Grimhive that really want to do their own thing and not be interacted with, and there's some monsters like Charles and Host of Horror
Who are all
that like they're
interaction.
all interaction, and if they're not interacting,
They do nothing.
they lose like half their power. So like just like just running away from these guys already spoils their strategies. Um,
Right.
and
So
so yeah, so you have some that are very aggressive, some that are very
it's
relaxed.
variable, right? Like that's the
Hmm.
beauty of the 20 monsters, and this is like, important to say is that there's a monster out there for you,
Yes.
right? If you want to play the game like it's like you're literally playing an RTS, play Grimhive. They basically play an RTS, right? You want to play the game like you're, essentially doing worker placement, play Rigu, because Rigu basically plays worker placement,
Yeah.
right?
Like
You
do
wanna,
set collection. You've got Doombox, right?
right?
If
You
you
want,
want,
if
what's
you
that?
want, gosh, now I'm blanking.
Like if you
If you
just want
want
to be a giant jerk and screw everyone up, like Charles. Um,
oh my gosh, you know,
yeah, or if you want to be like like Turbo Brain this, you can play Beast of Business. And
you're right, and actually play stock market, right? You
yeah,
actually play a
they
stock
say
market
Star
in
right, but
that, and
also like so the Beast of Business, like they're like who are the successor to the Spirit Board, their ability is that they kind of speculate what everybody's score is going to be at the end of the next round, and they have a few tools to control this. But basically, you're looking over there like how many points is Marco going to score next round? Okay, I need to put this like over here so that I can catch him on the score track, and the I think one of the cool things about this monster is that they get all of their knowledge up front. So they get to draw all their
right,
cards and they get to make their moves, and then they can like speculate. Most
speculate.
monsters have to move before they get their cards, so they don't know exactly what they're
Right,
capable of until like they get to the end of their deck. And so that's
right.
another thing is that as you go through a deck, you get more information about what's going forwards.
But opponents also do, right? Like when your deck, you
This
only
is
have three cards
true
left and your deck is
too.
empty. People know exactly what those
That's
three
it.
cards are.
And even though like serious gamers, I anticipate this is a level of strategy that most players are probably not going to get into, but it exists if you're like you want
If
to
you want to,
get that deep into this game, and this is a game you could play 100 times, right? Like
yeah.
that's how we build them over here. So you
So,
could get to that level of strategy, and there would still be gameplay to discover.
and the game is balanced around both ends. You can casually play monsters and everything will be fine, or you could sweat super hard. And no, you know me, Brad. I made it so that the monsters are very, very cool, and you discover all sorts of cool tech with them. If you
Hmm.
watch the video by Mike from One Stop Co-op Shop, he sees the flood card for the first time, and he's like, "Discard your hand and spook." Like, why? Right? Like he's like,
Hmm.
"Why would I do that?" And then like the next turn, he's like, "Oh, wait." Because Rise from the Depths cares about my number of cards in discard. Oh! And then he realized that he could do a combo and like get to a specific amount of like Rise from the Depths by discarding his hand, then spooking. And I'm like, yes, he did
Yeah,
it.
Angler is a very very scary monster. I love the way the design turned out for this one.
Oh, I
Yeah.
I love the angler so much. But you know what I love more, Brad? Spooktacular launch.
Okay, fine. I'll push the button. Are you ready? All right.
I'm emotionally not ready,
All right.
but
Cool. Well, you're too bad. You're too late. It happened.
oh, you did?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I
live now,
pushed the.
everybody.
Well, okay. I mean, it's saying like dot dot dot. Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, it's live. It happened.
Okay, everybody, Spooktacular is now live on Kickstarter.
There we go.
Please back it. Tell your friends all about it, everyone. And I'm going to
Yeah.
start posting on the socials. Well, Brad, it's been awesome hanging out with you. It's been awesome hanging out with Chad. Glad to have Joshua here. But
Before
without much
we
else to say,
before we go, I guess there is a little bit more to say because we want to talk about
yeah,
what will happen during the
I
project.
was
Do
about
we?
to literally get
Yeah,
into this.
yeah, yeah. So do we have
Awesome.
some events and streams planned for during the project?
So during the project, we will be doing a lot of cool stuff. So if you look at the Kickstarter right now, you'll see that there are no stretch goals. We're not about that. Instead, to keep you engaged, we will be doing monster highlight reels updates.
See,
So we will post
some people
about
have monster of the week. We're gonna have monster of the day.
that's how crazy we are. We have 20 awesome monsters with really, really cool backstories, really, really cool development processes, and we will do an update telling you about the inspiration of the monster, the development that went into making the theme of the monster, maybe even a small summary of what the monster's movie is about, as well as its gameplay. So there you go. We will do a monster feature almost every single day. So watch out for those. And if we didn't answer, like, what inspired this monster, who's your favorite monster, etc., the answers will be in those updates. We'll also be seeing, I'm thinking of doing like a watch along, maybe like we watch a horror
That could
movie
be really cool.
on the Discord or
Yeah.
something, right? So thinking about that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely stay on the Kickstarter, see the monster updates, and there you go. That's going to be awesome. Of course, I'm still going to be on social media making posts almost every single day about every single thing that's happening with Spooktacular. So keep on track with our social medias. And if you really want to engage more and talk with me directly, you can go to our Discord, and
Yeah.
the link for which will be in the description down below. That's it. Brad, do you have anything else you want to say before we head out?
Just that I appreciate everybody being here with us and for backing Spooktacular. Thank you for making it happen for us. And I really love, like I said, I really love making games for you guys, and I really appreciate that you keep playing them. So thank you for being here.
Well, without much else to say, it has been me, your host, Marco dos Santos, also known as the Mechanic Critic, and with me is the ever amazing, ever wonderful, not killed by a killer sofa.
Brad Talton. Thank you all so much. And as always, from us to you,